That's her body. Hey, let me look at. I want you to look at him so I know you understand what I'm saying. The medical staff and the medical examiner's office didn't even know if this girl was white or black.
I didn't do anything to her.
Okay. I don't want you to tell me anything other than the truth. Okay?
I didn't do it.
When Audreanna Zimmerman moved to Pensacola, Florida, she was hoping for a fresh start. She wanted to make some money for her 2 babies and then move back in with her family in Texas. Instead, she found a hellish nightmare filled with lies and violence. She would lose her life in an unspeakable way at the hands of 3 monsters. But before falling into a coma, Audriana spoke out 3 names, and from there, her case unfolded. What led to her horrifying death? And how were Heather, Tina, and Britney caught? This is the full story of the burnt alive girl who solved her own murder. It was late on March 24th, 2010 in Pensacola, Florida, when a man called Terrence heard a faint voice calling from the woods around his house. As he began looking for the girl calling for help, he was expecting a teenager lost in the woods. Not in a million years did he expect to see something so gruesome. It would scar him and the paramedics who came afterward for life.
That's the worst one I've seen. I couldn't believe she was still conscious and alert with the amount of burns she had.
Paramedics, fire people, and officers arrived at the horrific scene within an hour. A 19-year-old girl named Audreanna Zimmerman was stumbling aimlessly, burnt to a crisp, yet still conscious.
This lady on fire right now. She what? She burnt all up. You gotta. She burnt? She burnt. Somebody probably set the car on fire or something. I don't know. She just come out of the woods to my house.
Terrence had Audriana sit on his porch rocking chair while she waited for an ambulance.
She was kind of moaning. She was just in a sitting position, and the way she was looking was it hurt to move anywhere, so she was kind of in whatever position she was the most comfortable. It was in a sitting with her arms stuck straight out. She was moaning, and it was hard to understand her due to her jaw. Her jaw was very deformed and stuck out. So she kept, mumbling, help me, help me.
To the officer's surprise, Audriana was still able to give them a hint as to what really happened to her that night.
In reference to the call, we're on scene and fire saying that the patient, she's got second-degree burns over 100% of her body, but she's saying that there was no vehicle involved.
Audriana said she was dragged out of her house, tased, hit with a crowbar, and set on fire by a group of people. She was in such a horrific state that the paramedics could not even determine her skin color at the scene.
I told her keep fighting, and she kept saying over and over again, am I going to make it, am I going to make it? And I told her I was going to try. And she said, just tell me I'm going to wake up and see my babies.
The paramedic told Audriana that before she passed out and they treated her, she needed to know who did this to her and why.
She told me yes, and she named 3 girls, a Tina, a Heather, and a Britney. And I asked her why they did it to her, and she said, I thought we'd made up.
Right after, Audriana fell into a coma. Audriana, known as Augie to her family, had just moved to Cypress Trail Mobile Home Park with her 2 babies from Lubbock, Texas. A couple of hours after Augie was taken to the hospital, authorities arrived at her home to check on her babies, as she'd asked them to. She was a single mom, and they were home alone. After they were taken to safety, the authorities wanted to speak to Augie's neighbors: Tina Brown, her 16-year-old daughter, Britney Miller, Heather Lee, and her husband, Darren. They lived at numbers 1 and 3, surrounding Augie's home. It took all 4 of them an hour to respond. Tina, Heather, and Darren were together and trying to avoid authorities. This alone proved suspicious enough to have them all taken to the station for questioning. There was another thing. The same officers had visited that trailer park 25 times before. Its residents, including Tina, Heather, and Darren, were known for selling narcotics and or working as escorts. They all had criminal records, and yet detectives were not expecting things to go so badly. From inside the patrol car, Heather claimed that she'd seen Augie that day and that she was going on a date, but officers had spoken to Augie and knew that wasn't true.
I won't sit here and believe what you're saying, but we're getting information. You know what's going on here. You and Tina.
I don't know anything about what's going on here. Like I said, I was here at the house. My mom called me on my cell phone. I talked to my mom.
What does that have to do with anything? Heather was throwing alibis left and right unpromptly, This only made her look more suspicious.
My aunt came here, her, the kids, my 2 cousins was in the car with her. My aunt down in the 4th trailer, she seen me today.
Before Heather was out of the car, she dropped another bombshell. When her husband Darren was put into the car with her, he said authorities found a gas can on their porch. But Heather technically didn't know that Audriana had been burnt.
Gas can from the porch.
The gas, them gas cans being on the porch, I don't even know who gas cans is this.
Yeah, that's not the reaction of someone who doesn't know what happened to Audriana. Heather, Darren, and Tina were taken in for an interrogation. Meanwhile, authorities set on to find 16-year-old Britney, who had disappeared in her SUV earlier that night. Watch what Heather said when she was left alone. The 3 suspects did not have their story straight. They had probably tried to settle on what they would tell the officers, but they definitely didn't take the time to figure out the details. In just a few minutes, it became clear that they were all lying. When they were asked why they didn't answer the door to the officers for a whole hour, Heather said they were scared of the police, while Tina said they were watching a movie.
They didn't knock on my door.
Oh yeah, they beat on that door.
I don't like one they did because I was laying right there on the couch and I didn't hear no locks.
Even your husband said they beat on the door and you wasn't going to answer the door. And then Tina said they beat on the door and y'all didn't answer the door.
I got up.
It was a circus of lies and inconsistencies from the start. Heather said Tina was gone for about an hour, only coming to her house when authorities started knocking. Tina said she was inside Heather's home all day, watching TV when authorities came. Darren had a third version of events.
Because your wife tells us that you and her are at home alone. Tina comes barreling in and saying, hey, the cops are outside. And y'all see the cops outside. And Tina's saying, don't answer the door.
No, that's a lie.
Darren confirmed his wife was trying to frame Tina. Tina, on the other hand, feigned ignorance.
Right, but you were home all night. You didn't see any kind of disturbance going on over there before the cops came over there or anything?
No, we would have heard something.
The detective confronted Tina with her accomplice's lies and told her Audriana was most likely going to die in the hospital that night.
When she dies, it's going to change gears, okay?
I didn't do anything to her.
Okay. I don't want you to tell me anything other than the truth, okay?
I didn't do it.
Pressed for more information, Tina started talking, but it was just more lies.
Audriana been sleeping with a lot of girls,
Well,
a lot of guys
I
around
realize
there.
that. I realize that.
One of them could have did it. I didn't do it. I promised to go.
Just as dramatic, Heather kept saying she was worried about her friend.
Sugar, you all right?
You know, worried about Audriana.
Yeah, I am too. I'm very worried about Audriana.
My friend.
Tell us what happened.
I don't know. I seen her earlier today. It seemed like everything was all right when I seen her today.
These detectives also broke the truth to Heather.
We did get a chance to talk to Audriana before she went to the hospital.
Yes.
She told us a few things. She told us who did this to her.
Yes, sir.
She told us where they took her and what they did to her.
But even with this information at hand, Heather still acted innocent and worried.
I don't know. I would never hurt her. I always have protected her when she got into it with people in that trailer park.
For most people, getting into it with your neighbors isn't normal. Yet Heather spoke as if this was a daily affair and she was on Augie's side. When she blabbered on about more irrelevant matters, the detective confronted her even more directly.
Last thing she told us was you came in there along with your friends, dragged her out of that house.
I put down everything I love. I put down my
And
chair
burned her.
and light. Burned her?
Yes. And that's the last thing she told
God. Burned her?
Yes.
It's incredible how patient the detectives were, listening to Heather fake cry for minutes on end, lying about how much she loved Augie, a woman who had moved into her trailer park home just 2 months prior to this.
This is my friend. We talking about this is my friend. You said that's gonna die. I've been protecting her. I've been protecting her. I've been talking to her mama every time she get into it with them.
Who you got to protect her from?
Cause she been getting into it with Tina and everybody.
Okay, so what's her and Tina got a beef over? Her and Tina said they get along fine.
would rather be just like that.
Notice how Heather refuses to get into Augie's issues with Tina. Of course, this was not just Tina's beef. It was Heather's too. And whenever she realized she'd given too much away, she changed the subject, going back to her undying love for Augie. Tina appeared a bit more calm during her interrogation, but throughout the 2 hours she was in there, she soothed herself like an anxious child. Her arms were in her shirt, and she would massage her neck and rub her face constantly. She might not have been crying like Heather, but these were also strong signs of anxiety and deception.
So why is it that Heather's saying that your daughter didn't come by her house, that she went by your house?
Who went by my house?
Your daughter.
My daughter was at my house, supposedly.
Okay.
And she came to Heather's house.
When she was confronted with the inconsistent stories, Tina got visibly enraged.
Oh my God. Is that the story between you and Heather keeps getting further and further apart?
I have not changed nothing on mine. Not nothing.
Okay.
Nothing at all. That's the truth. If that's the truth, then that's the truth, okay?
Okay.
Nothing's changed from what I've told you. Now you have it.
The trio was kept at the station for a whole night. By sunrise, Britney's car appeared in front of the trailer house, so the authorities brought her into the station too. Reportedly, Britney had been in the hospital with 2 friends. When she arrived at the station, her mom Tina was frantic.
That's my daughter's
That
boy.
is not your daughter. You need to step back in here.
Britney.
It's not Britney. Jesus.
Tina wasn't worried about her daughter's welfare. She was worried she'd incriminate her. In Florida, a 16-year-old can be interrogated without a parent present. Britney arrived at the station with a wrapped up arm and a broken pinky finger.
What'd you do to get out of here?
I broke my pinky. It's really sloppy.
Tell me how that happened.
Mallory, I was cleaning, we were in my room cleaning up my room, and I asked Mallory to toss me my key. And when she went to toss it, I went like that to try to catch him, and that's when I hit like the corner of the door right there.
Britney claimed she and her 2 friends, Mallory and Jessica, were inside their home partying all evening until 1 a.m. when she broke her finger and they all drove to the hospital. Just like the rest of her family and friends, Britney dug herself deep into her lies. So the detectives had to confront her too, appealing to her conscience.
You seem like a good person. Nobody's in here saying you're a bad person, but what we're saying is something bad happened to somebody that you know. And we feel like you know what happened.
Despite her young age, Britney did not crack either. However, by March 25th, the detectives had tracked Britney's SUV tracks to the crime scene. The dashboard and passenger headrest were covered in red spots, and where the car pulled off, there were visible signs of a struggle. The crowbar used that night was still at the scene, as were Audriana's burnt-up clothes and shoes. The forensics team also retrieved strands of hair. During their interrogation, both Tina and Britney mentioned Britney had braided Tina's hair earlier that day.
You wear a weave?
My daughter was doing it today.
Is that a weave?
It's weave.
When they asked Tina to turn around, detectives could clearly match the hair strand to a missing patch on her head. So at least Tina and Britney were involved, but their motive was still a mystery.
I told you we were best friends in that trailer park in the beginning.
That's funny, because Heather says that her and Audriana are best friends, and that you and Audriana don't get along, and that you and Audriana are constantly having problems, and that you and your daughter have been chasing Audriana around this trailer park, trying to hurt her.
The detectives had to release the 4 that day, knowing that the 3 women involved were guilty. They had been lying through their teeth, trying to pin the blame on each other and act confused. But you see, they were not that secretive with their neighbors and friends, and authorities always know how to speak to a suspect's inner circle. On April 7th, Tina's relative in Illinois phoned the Pensacola authorities. Tina had phoned her mother 2 days after the attack and confessed to jumping Augie together with Britney and Heather. A complicated struggle ensued, and it ended with Tina lighting Augie on fire in the woods. It was also Tina who ordered her daughter to stay away from the trailer park until authorities left the area. Britney stayed at the crime scene trying to get rid of the evidence and washing her car interior with hand sanitizer. Tina's relative said she was shocked at how little remorse Tina had over the phone. She was confident she and her daughter wouldn't be arrested as there wasn't any real evidence against them. Except there was. Tons of it. On April 8th, Augie passed away, 5 days before her 20th birthday. The same day, Tina was brought into the station again.
He ain't going around here telling people you killed that girl. He talking to your relatives and telling them that. And they calling us. She died. She died last night. Succumbs to her wounds.
The detective spoke to Tina about how Augie's kids saw her get dragged away, how Augie ran still ablaze to get help, and how her last question was if she was going to see her babies again. Then they showed her a picture of her charred body, all in an attempt to get a confession and get a motive from Tina.
That's her body. Hey, let me look at it. I want you to look at him so I know you understand what I'm saying. The medical staff and the medical examiner's office didn't even know if this girl was white or black.
Tina stayed silent, but once she was left alone, she started calling out to Augie.
Sweet of the Lord, have mercy. Come back. And heart was terrorized. Oh, you was a sweet girl. Oh, I tried to wait.
After weeks of talking to neighbors, friends, and family, the outrageous motive was soon revealed. Augie had fallen in the middle of a telenovela-style love triangle fest. Reportedly, Tina as well as Audriana were sleeping with Heather's husband, Darren. According to Tina, she only slept with Darren in exchange for drugs.
Did you and Ms. Zimmerman have any kind of relationship?
Somewhere.
All right. Did y'all have?
Somewhere.
Darren was sleeping with pretty much everyone in the trailer park. As the cheating slowly came to light, Audriana, the new girl, became public enemy number 1. During the woman's trial, the heartbreaking nature of Augie's death was revealed. That fateful night, Tina invited Augie to patch things up. When she arrived, Tina tased her and dragged her to the bedroom. There, Heather stuffed a sock in her mouth and Britney beat her. They drove her to the woods, taking turns tasing her. Tina then poured gasoline over her and lit her on fire. Tina watched her burn, jumping for joy, screaming, "Burn, bitch, burn." She was sentenced to death. Britney was tried as an adult and sentenced to life in prison. Heather testified against Tina for a plea deal. As a result, she was only sentenced to 25 years behind bars. To this day, over a decade since Augie's death, the 3 women are still telling lies about each other and attempting to reduce their sentences by throwing the other ones under the bus. It's a telling of their personalities. There never was any friendship between them, just lies, jealousy, and violence. Augie moved to Florida hoping for a fresh start. Instead, she found hell on earth, a hell she would never get to escape. Hey, thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on this tragic case? Do you know similar stories? Let me know in a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe.